Hi, this is James Vincent from More and Delio, and in this training session we're going to look at Xero and using the bank rules and storing or attaching documents with each of your transaction. Okay, so let's get into it. Now, I've just opened up our bank reconciliation page and you'll see that next to each of the transactions you have an option here to create a rule. So I'm going to create a rule for our Central City parking. You can see it's already tried to guess the transaction from some previous ones, but I'm going to create a rule now which just gets it right every time. So the first thing it asks you is basically on what information on the bank statement do you want to apply the rules. So it's looked up and saw that we've got some payee information where it stores the name Central City Parking. Now you could also have other information coming through on the bank statement from the description line or the reference line on the bank statement, but in this case we've only got the one line that comes through. But I'm going to, just to be safe, I'm going to say if any text field comes through, and for it not to equal but to be in a situation where it actually just contains the word Central City Parking, because regardless of what I've used in my reference when I made the payment, I always use Central City Parking, and anytime I'm making a payment to them I want to code it automatically this way. So the next thing I'm going to do is tell the system how to store the contact. So every time it makes this payment I want to store it, not necessarily by using the name of the payee, which in this case was Central City, but by putting it into a specific either existing or new customer. And I'm just going to copy the name Central City Parking, Control C, and paste it down there, Control V. It's found that customer, that's great. So now every time it does this, it'll automatically put it into that customer, regardless of what information I had in the payee line. Sometimes the danger of just leaving it as the customer will be the payee line is if for whatever reason you decide to change that, you could end up with multiple customers or supplier accounts with that new payee name. Now this one's quite unique. I actually have, every time I pay Central City Parking, I always pay a bank charge of $2 where there's no GST, and the rest of it, depending on how long I park, gets coded to parking, which I code to office expenses. So I've set up so the first $2 fixed value on every transaction will have no GST and be coded to bank fees. The remainder, regardless of how much that is, will get coded to office expenses relating to car park. Now I could have multiple lines on either one of those categories, but in this case that's just perfect for what I'm doing. The reference we'll take that from the reference on the bank statement, that's fine, I'm happy with that. And I'm going to apply this to not just my business bank account, but any bank account. So if I make this payment out of any bank account, the bank rec's going to find it. The last thing we need to do is make sure we've got some sort of logical rule name for this rule, so that if we ever have to go back and change the rule, we know which one to select to make that change. So that's all good. I'm saving that now. And you'll see it's actually taking me to all my bank rules and it's my new bank rule down there of Central City Banking, but I actually wanted to go back to the bank rec. So once again, this is a good way of just holding on that back button and selecting the page where I was on the bank rec. I'll let go now, and it's taking me back to that bank rec. You can see on the Central City Parking, this was actually what it looked like prior to me making it, because I've gone back in time by selecting that back arrow. So I need to either click that reload the page, which I will, or F5 does the same thing. You'll see it spins around, and hopefully that Central City Parking now has updated, and you can see it's applying the rule Central City Parking. That is all good. If I check the details of that, I should be able to see that it's coding $2 with no GST to my bank charges, and the rest goes to car parking office expenses. That sounds good. I'll save that transaction and click OK. So the other thing I was just going to run through today, and this is something we love as your accountant, where possible it's fantastic to actually store directly into Xero information about a transaction, and it's got a great feature for that. So on any transaction, if I click on add detail, you'll see there's this little wee document icon down here, and if I click on that document item, it allows me to store directly into Xero forever basically on that transaction some information. So I'm going to click upload file. Now in my temp directory I've saved the invoice relating to this particular customer. It's a very an exciting looking invoice over here, but I'm going to save that anyway. And you see it's importing it into Xero. That's now saved, and little ones appeared telling me there's one document attached to that particular transaction. So I'm now going to finish and code this to conference expense, or consulting actually. Consulting and accounting sounds good. It's going to claim GST on that. Now this is a great feature for any unusual transaction, any particularly large transaction, legal fees, buying assets, anything where you feel that insurance that we might ask you about it. By putting a copy in there, it means that we've got it, we don't have to bother you anymore, and you've actually got a copy there forever basically. Some people have gone as far as scanning and recording every document directly in the system, which means they don't even have to keep hard paper copies of all their transactions. They've got an electronic copy of every transaction on their system. So if I save that now and hit OK, what I can do is have a quick look on our reports. I'm just going to drill down the other way. So us as accountants, we might have a look at your profit and loss, have a look at your expenses and say, oh, that consulting and advertising sounds a bit odd. Well, that's cleaning, but the consulting, I'll go back to the right figure. Consulting and advertising there looks a bit odd, so let's just have a quick look at it. I can see there's a couple in there. There's the monthly subscription and there's this ACL conference, and I'm asking myself, oh, why did we code that? Now you know, to drill down we can't actually click on the amount, the type or the date. You've always got to click on the transaction detail or transaction heading to drill down. So if I click on that, you'll see it's starting to spin. It'll take me further into that transaction. Okay, so here's the transaction. You'll see, whoop, popping up next to it is a little one document. So now I can click on that and actually click on that document, and it'll be able to pull down that document and let me have a look at it. So I can download and have a quick look at that document. Now some documents will view directly in there. I'm not too sure why that one didn't, but yeah, I can download and have a look at that document. There it is. It's my lovely weird looking invoice, but that's fine. So yeah, this is a fantastic new feature that's available within Xero, and it's one that, yeah, we definitely encourage everyone to try and utilise. So that's the end of the session. Hopefully it's been of some value, and keep looking out for other sessions.